Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for the BA MI information session. It is a small group of us today, but I will mention that this is going to be recorded. So while I do encourage you to turn your camera on, if you don't want to, that's totally fine. I just ask that if you have any questions later on, please do not share any personally identifying information. That's including PIDs or your email. Your name should be okay. That's totally fine. And so you'll have the chance to ask questions later on, but feel free to stay muted. Keep your camera off if you'd like to stay anonymous. And so if you cannot stay for the entire duration of this workshop, or you have friends who were not able to attend today, please email this email I'm going to put in the chat, and then I can send you the link to the recording later on. So without further ado, let's get started. This should take about an hour of your time. Okay, so some brief introductions. My other two colleagues are not able to make it today, so it's just me. I'm Julia. I'm the primary advisor for the joint degree programs here at GPS. And I oversee the BA MIA program for those who are interested in applying, as well as helping you guide you throughout your graduate requirements once you're admitted in the program. I see my supervisor, Dr. Nancy Gilson, was just able to log on now. She is the director of degree programs at GPS and ISP. Nancy, are you going to give an introduction really quickly?
Yeah, sorry, it made me sign in and then it lagged. I'm Nancy Gilson. I'm the Director of Academic Degree Programs for GPS and at International Studies, and worked on the curriculum for the BA MIA program as well with political science faculty, and have a PhD in political science myself. So this is a curriculum and a program that I know really well. And so I'm happy to talk with you and work with you in any way that I can to get you ready and applying to the program.
Cool. And unfortunately, Natalie Eicher, your political science advisor, she's out of the office today, so she's not able to attend. But if you don't know her yet, get to know her. She's your political science advisor and your point of contact for any questions you have regarding your political science undergraduate major requirements. She's also an expert on the joint degree program in terms of your political science requirements as well. So you are in the most optimal, so that when you meet with her and meet with us, you'll be in the most optimal spot to apply to this program. And so throughout the duration of this presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. If you feel like you're going to forget, Dr. Gilson will be running the chat and she'll be able to answer those. If it's not answered right away, it might be answered later on in the presentation, so hold tight. And then at the end, we'll give you some time to unmute yourselves for any individual questions you have later on. So we want to make sure that we give you enough time to answer everything that you'd like to know about this program so that you feel the most comfortable and so that you feel good applying to this program if you're interested. So what is the BA MIA program? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the School of Global Policy, or GPS on campus, our school is a very interdisciplinary curriculum based, where our faculty are made up of a lot of political scientists, economists, faculty who are in international management, who have PhDs in business or some other areas of business. And then we also have a group of faculty who are broadly interdisciplinary, who straddle STEM and GPS. So we have engineers, people in SIO, or who might be physicists. So one thing to grasp from that is that we really are an interdisciplinary program. And a huge thread that goes along with all of that is through political science, since the founders of GPS and then the founders of the original BA MIA program that we have with the International Studies program, we're all political scientists. So the BA MIA program takes the interdisciplinary program of GPS and integrates it really well with your political science undergraduate major. It really pulls you into thinking about the interdisciplinary inputs into political and public policy, social policy, international trade agreements, and multilateral or bilateral agreements. So there's an opportunity for you to see the way in which policy goes together in a more accurate sense. So the program is designed for students who are interested in the advanced training in policymaking, the politics around policy and regulation, international affairs, whether you're more interested in political economy or in development or in business, this program is good for you. A master's in political science in a good school and a good department is a strong gateway to a PhD if that's what you're interested in. And so this is a different kind of program that will lead you to a PhD, but in the short term, it also allows you to think about a career working in the area of policy before you go into graduate school in a way that is quite unique in compared to other social sciences. And so through this program, you'll be earning your Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science, International Affairs, and then your Master's in International Affairs with only one additional year on top of your undergraduate years. So one question that has come up before to us was, why get a master's degree instead of just a bachelor's degree if GPS is in a sense a replication or a model off of political science? And so the answer is that a lot of the data shows us that the master's degrees are the new bachelor's degrees. And so if a master's degree means that you get a higher chances of getting your first job with a higher salary, and it's more targeted towards the thing that you're more interested in, you'll definitely be much more attractive to employers and beat out a lot more of the competition in today's market as compared to just having a bachelor's degree. So if you have an idea of what you really want to do, having a master's degree is almost absolutely essential. And so here is a graphic of the way the BA-MIA joint degree programs works. I know one of the things that's hard to grasp is how it works in terms of earning your bachelor's and your master's. Most of you who are interested in applying will apply during the spring of your junior year. We'll talk about applications a little bit more, but they are due in April every year. So admissions will be announced sometime in May, and then you'll begin your graduate work in that fall of the next academic year that you just applied in. So as you can see here in the shaded light and dark blue of that senior year, which is that fourth year if you're a freshman entry at UCSD, or that second year if you're a transfer. I know the GIF moves kind of fast, but bear with me here. You'd be beginning your master's program work by taking the GPS core classes while also finishing any of the requirements for your undergraduate political science major requirements in that senior year. So you're working on both the undergraduate requirements as well as your major requirements while you're still an undergrad. And then shown in the light blue 5 box for freshmen and that light blue 3 box if you're a transfer, that is the one additional year where you would be solely a graduate student doing graduate level work. One thing to note is that in the summer between your last undergraduate year and that final year as a graduate student, you will be required to have an internship, and then you'll be finishing that graduate year to get your master's degree. And so another thing to understand is that it's the exact same curriculum as the students who apply to and are admitted into our 2 years master's program. So you're earning your Master's of International Affairs with only one additional one additional year of work. So this is financially more affordable and a little bit more efficient, but you are doing the same amount of coursework as those who are doing the 2-year program. And so because you all have a background in political science, you will all fit very neatly into the cohort of graduate students in the curriculum of GPS. And so this slide kind of reiterates what I talked about earlier. The GPS curriculum really blends the disciplinary interests and lays a foundation for you to get a job in almost any field you want to go in, like policy regulation, going into both the public and private sectors and nonprofits, NGOs in a policy area that you're interested in. GPS is focused on the Asia Pacific region. So that includes the United States, Central America, Latin America, to some extent the Caribbean, East Asia, Southeast Asia in particular. So it really focuses on the politics and economics and business trades among these countries. So the second paragraph here says that it really leads you to a lot of different professional directions. And because we also have a Master of Public Policy program at GPS, we do have a growing number of classes that focus on the United States. So you do have this ability to focus on one country in the regions that I mentioned earlier, or you can do something comparatively depending on what you're interested in. And so here are the eligibility requirements for the program. You do have to be a current political science major. At the time of your application, when you're submitting it, you have to have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher and a major GPA of a 3.4, and that is all of your upper division political science major classes, which you can find on your degree audit. It should be a distinct major GPA on top of all your major requirements, and your cumulative GPA will be right on top. So it's two different ones. And then GPS has a very stacked core requirement. So we want to be able to see that when you start your graduate work in your senior year, that you'll be able to finish all of your political science requirements and all of your GE and university requirements by the end of your senior year so that you can graduate with your bachelor's degree. So this is where you want to make sure that you're checking in with Natalie so that you're able to figure out what requirements you have left and how to plan out all of this and how it will fit into your schedule with the time you have remaining at UCSD. And then you must be able to demonstrate that you'll be able to finish 6th quarter proficiency in a GPS language by the time you graduate with your master's degree. So not your bachelor's degree, but in that additional year as a master's degree. We will touch on languages in a second, but if you haven't had to do a language requirement for any campus GEs or requirements, or you have been taking a language other than an Asia Pacific language, and you want to do the BA MIA program, you're going to have to start a language either in your junior or senior year, so that by the time you get into the end of your graduate year, you will have 6th quarter proficiency. If you have native ability and you're bilingual, or if you have attended high school in an Asia Pacific country, or if you have a language minor, you are able to waive out of this requirement. So understand that this is another major requirement on top of your political science requirements. And so these are the requirements in a nutshell. I will go through a more detailed breakdown of each moving forward. But to start off, you just have your lower division requirements, which is the Asia Pacific relevant language courses, all of your lower division political science courses. You do have to do those in the political science major. In the standard majors, it is a little bit different for the BA MIAs, but definitely talk to Natalie about what those differences are if you are unsure. And then you have your upper division requirements, which is a specialized set of courses for the political science international affairs major. We'll talk about that in a minute. But again, Natalie can help you sort through those classes if you've already taken some and you want to figure out where they fit in those requirements. Online, we do have a major checklist and quarter by quarter plan template where you can see what you have completed, what courses you have that will apply, and what you have left to do. That should be on the political science website as well, if you want to do that prior to meeting with Natalie. And then for GPS, you have the first year course sequence, which is 8 classes. You'll have 3 in the fall, 3 in the winter, and 2 in the spring. You have a regional specialization where you'll be choosing a country that you would like to focus on for the next 2 years or year after. The language requirement, like I mentioned earlier, is 6th quarter proficiency. You'll have a career track, which allows you to specialize in an area of international affairs, which is a 5-class requirement. And then in your last graduate year, you'll have a capstone research class. And so here is the language requirement and the regional requirement in more depth. Like I mentioned already, GPS has a 6th quarter proficiency requirement. We accept other languages, but the chart here shows you kind of the standard languages that we allow at GPS. There are others that we allow for Southeast Asia, specifically if you speak Thai, Vietnamese, we even allow Spanish. And so we do allow those for that regional specialization. And so this chart is just a place to start and where you would how your language would relate to your specialization. We do have some students who use Hindi as their native language because there are a lot of Hindi speaking communities in Southeast Asia, like Thailand or Malaysia, even Singapore. So we do allow Hindi as well for Southeast Asia. But these are just the standard languages that you would have to have some 6-quarter proficiency in. And so your lower division political science requirements, you will have to have completed these with a letter grade of C- or better by the time you apply for the program. In a sense, this gives you kind of a keyhole view of the curriculum at GPS with the methods, comparative politics, international relations, and research design classes. So you have to take these, and these all lay a big foundation, not only for your upper division political science courses, but also moving forward into the graduate level core classes that you'll be required to take for the program. And then these are the upper division political science requirements for the BA MIA track. They're a little bit different from any of the other political science major tracks, so keep that in mind. Please check in with Natalie about this if you need any more clarification. So you will have 2 classes in international political economy, 2 America politics classes. The reason here is because we want you to understand how institutions operate in regulation and in relation to regulation and policy making. And then you'll have 2 classes in either international relations or comparative politics, and then 3 electives from the upper division political science curriculum. Natalie has a list of these courses. Please know that this list does not encompass everything in political science in terms of upper division courses. There are specific ones that are GPS adjacent. It's still a long list, but please make sure that you look at that list to see what courses will be allowed in some that you might have already taken before. And then in your senior year, these are the GPS core classes that you'll be taking, along with any other remaining coursework you have left to finish for your undergraduate degree. You have microeconomics for policymaking and management. You have globalization, the world system in the Pacific, and quantitative methods in the fall. Winter quarter, you'll be taking policymaking processes. This is our real foundational political science class that takes seriously the idea that the design of institutions matter. For example, the basic question of why does England have national health insurance, but the United States doesn't? Part of the answer to that is it might be because there's more people on the left in England, but the better answer is that politics are organized differently, so you can get representation of that interest in government, and so you get different policy outcomes based on that. And then you also have accounting and finance. Our take on this is that if you're interested in trade, you have to know how businesses operate. If you're interested in development, you have to know how development is financed. So you have to have some sort of knowledge of accounting and finance, which is why we require this course. We have quantitative methods 2, which is moving forward from quantitative methods 1 that you take in the fall. This is a data and R-driven class. And then in spring quarter, you have international economics and international politics and security. And so once you finish the core at GPS in your first year, you will have a career track requirement. As it says at the top, you will have 2 required core courses, 2 required courses, and 3 electives. So you get to choose one of these 5 career tracks, and this is where you really begin to specialize in the things that interest you when you are thinking about what you want to do once you leave UCSD. So the required courses typically have one that is on regulation in a major area, and the other required course you get to choose from 2, and that allows you to really pivot the direction of the career track into the direction of how you want to craft your specialization in terms of that. And so the career tracks are international development and nonprofit management. If you want to work in an NGO or a non-governmental organization or a nonprofit, this is a really good track. Any place in the world at the outset, we've had people go to Africa, we've had people go to India or Vietnam from this track, so it's a really good track. We have international economics. This is a particularly good field if you see yourself wanting to go into work on trade policy, or if you want to work in a large industry or do consulting. And then we have international environmental governance. We have a lot of students working in climate issues with this career track, and energy, both in the nonprofit and public-private sectors. We have international management, where we have students go into consulting, banks, market analysis. We have students at Google, Facebook, Qualcomm, and all sorts of these major businesses. And last but not least, we have international politics, where we have people go into the US government, work for the state of California, go into multilaterals, bilaterals. In some cases, we have students work abroad in policy areas in their home countries or countries that they've always wanted to live in once they graduated from school. And so these are the 5 career tracks that we have at GPS for the MIA degree. And then, as we said earlier, you have a regional specialization. This is 2 courses that is typically an economics of and a politics of course. So depending on your region, we have political institutions of Latin America and the economic policies of Latin America, or the economics of Southeast Asia and the politics of Southeast Asia, and so on. And so there you have, with those, you'll begin to have a really full understanding of the political evolution of these countries, what their current foreign policy is, what their relationship is with other countries, but also the economic base of the country, like what are the advantages and disadvantages of their economies, who do they trade with, what are their economic difficulties. So with those 2 classes, you'll get a full sense of government policy in that specific region. And then your language requirement will tie in with the regional specialization. So that is the regional specialization requirement as a whole. And so this is a busy chart. It's kind of a lot to look at, but bear with me. This definitely shows you that the program is doable if you came in as a freshman. If you're a transfer student, hold on, we have an example for you too in the next slide. But this gives you a pretty decent layout of all your requirements from the time you came in as a freshman through your last year as an undergrad, plus that additional year as a graduate student. So it shows you, or it gives you a general sense of where all the classes fit. It kind of shows you an idea of if you wanted to study abroad or do an internship, or do UCDC, you can kind of see how that could all fit in there, and you can still do all the opportunities you wish to do. A couple of things to point out is that the summer between your senior year, where you graduate with your bachelor's degree, before you matriculate into your graduate standing in that last year, you will have a summer internship requirement. This is a requirement for all of our students. And if you're freaking out that the fact that you have a required internship that you have to have, we have a GPS Career Services team. They will do their best to help find you an internship as well. In the cases of if you have an unpaid internship, they will help fund that. If you're going abroad and you have lack of funding in that aspect, they also work with you to help fund housing, travel, and stuff like that. We won't just tell you to go have a bake sale if you want to go work for the OECD in Paris. So we'll help you out with that. We fund airplane tickets and places to stay. So the limitations on that internship is kind of your own imagination, and your unwillingness to think about what you want to do and find the right internship for you. You'll also notice that where it says apply in April of your junior year on the right, it shows you that you'll be applying and shows you from there of when you'll start your graduate work. So many of you may be asked to do our summer prep program in microeconomics, and quantitative methods. If you have no background in either of those courses or you feel weak in those subjects, that's totally fine. This year we've had about 180 students in our prep program, including the 2-year degree students, along with the other BA MIA students. And so we've never had any students say that prep was a waste of time. So if you're required to do prep, it's not because we don't like you and we want to punish you. It's because we want you to do well in the program. And a lot of students will also say it's a great place to meet friends that you're going to be doing the rest of the 2 years with, form your study groups and do some socializing. So prep is not a bad thing overall. And so if you're a transfer student, this shows you as applying in April of your junior year. So if you just came to UCSD this year, it is a quick turnaround, and your senior year and your third year look exactly the same as the freshman entry students. Now we know some transfer students take an additional year, which is something you might not want to hear, but we'll talk about that individually if that's the case for you. But it's mostly because you may have went to community college for not that long, or all of your lower division requirements were not completed by the time you came to UCSD. And so you'll need to talk to Natalie how you'll fit all of your lower division requirements and your upper division requirements for political science, and how we can get that all settled. In some cases, depending on if you're a transfer student and you came to UCSD as a history major and then changed to a political science major, and you're really behind on your requirements, you may require an additional year before applying to the BA-MIA program. But we can make that work. It is doable, but it does take a lot of planning. So if you're a transfer student wanting to apply to the BA-MIA program, we do need you to talk to us sooner rather than later so we can begin to figure out how you're going to get all your coursework done. And then you may also have to do summer prep as well. But if you need to do summer work, we can talk to you to see how that would all fit in. And then at GPS, we have these certificate programs. These are for tying a ribbon on all of the coursework that you're probably going to be doing already at GPS. This allows you to put on your resume that you have a certificate in quantitative methods, spatial analysis, or energy analytics. This is coursework that you're already going to be doing to count towards your GPS requirements, but these certificates are the only way that you can double count coursework at GPS. So when we were talking about the career tracks and you have those 2 required courses and 3 electives, your 3 electives cannot overlap with any of your other if you do a double career track or whatnot, but certificates are the only way that you can double count work. So we have a lot of students who do these because they feel that being able to put a concrete thing on their resume and tell an employer that they have a year of GIS and remote sensing, or a year of policy analysis in energy and technology, and climate change and energy alternatives. So the certificate programs are designed to allow you to claim that particular specialization and expertise. And so the requirements are listed here, and almost all of the coursework required for these certificates are courses that you'll already be taking, and is very much likely to overlap with the coursework in the certificate programs. And so this is an overview of the application process. Like I mentioned already, the BA-MIA application deadline is April of every year. So that'll be this upcoming spring. You'll be looking to apply if you're trying to apply for the next cycle. You will need to go to the UCSD graduate application site. This is a different site than the undergraduate application site. So be sure it's you're going to grad apply on connect.grad.ucsd.edu. And you will need to make sure that you're applying to the correct program, because all of the graduate programs that we have are on this platform. So you want to make sure that you're choosing IR 75 as your major. This is not reflective of your undergraduate major. This is your graduate level major code. And you'll actually be applying. So you'll be applying in spring of 2023 if you're applying this upcoming spring. And it will ask you for which quarter that you're applying for. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You're not applying for fall of 2023, although that is when you'll be starting your graduate coursework. Since this is a graduate application portal, you'll be starting as a graduate student in fall of 2024 when you officially matriculate into graduate standing. And so it's complicated when you're thinking that you're starting classes in the fall of 2023, which is true, but you're really starting your graduate year in fall of 2024. And so if you have any questions about this, or you're a little bit confused, feel free to ask away. We do have students that we need to tell them to resubmit their documents for the correct year. And so it is a little bit confusing, but if you have questions, please let us know. Yes, so the application will definitely ask you specific questions for which program you're applying to. And so you want to make sure that while you're applying this year, you'll be finishing your bachelor's degree in spring of 2024, and you'll be starting your graduate year in fall of 2024. And then so for the application, you will have a statement of purpose. This statement of purpose is really a discussion of your professional objectives. We like to explain it to students as kind of an intellectual biography. When did you become interested in the thing that you became interested in? How is that developed through your time at UCSD, through your internships and extracurriculars, any jobs you've had, and what do you want to do with it? What do you think GPS has to add to those set of skills and interests? And what do you want to do with that once you graduate? So it's a different kind of personal statement than when you wrote to get into UCSD. And it is much more about what you're interested in and kind of what do you want to be when you grow up, as it were. So when you graduate from UCSD, you just want to explain what do you hope to get out of this and what do you hope to get out of your degree. There's also an optional supplemental essay. It's not really an essay, but rather just a set of questions that are directed towards specific topics. As it is optional, but there may be things that you want to tell us that don't fit in your required personal statement. Excuse me. For example, if you failed a class or got what you think was a bad grade, the supplemental essay is a good way of saying, I was sick that day, or I had family issues, I crashed my car, got into an accident, or just simply you were taking too many classes and it ended up not doing well in that particular class because it was harder than you thought. So in other words, you can explain something on your transcripts or on your anything else that you submit to us that we will see, and you can explain to us without hoping that it will go away, that we won't see it. So we are going to see it. So please use that opportunity to explain to us what happened if you have something. And then we require a resume. We know a lot of you do not have a long work history, so your resume is not going to be 3 to 4 pages long, and we know that. But we want to see what other things you have to offer. So if you have any other internships, jobs you might have had, any community service that you've done, if you have any computer skills, other languages you might speak, if you've been abroad, any travel that you've done. We just kind of want to see what you highlight for yourself. And then it also gives us a full picture of who you are, aside from your personal statement. And then we also require transcripts. These are from UCSD. As long as we have your academic history, it does not have to be an official transcript. If you are a transfer student, as long as all of your transfer coursework is on your UCSD academic history, we don't need all of your transcripts from your community college or for your university where you came from before UCSD. So as long as everything is on there, your UCSD academic history will suffice. And then we need the name and email addresses of two recommenders. We don't require letters of recommendation, but the recommenders have to go in and give their recommendations online. So it's an online system. You'll be sending them a link. And it is a set of questions where they rank you and they can fill in boxes to tell us about you. And so these should be either academic references, such as a teacher, professor, or someone you've worked for. We know in some cases you might have been in a big class with hundreds of students and it was hard to talk to the professor. So in some cases, if you got really close to one of the PhD students that was helping to TA, or another teaching assistant for one of your classes that knows you well, that would be fine. It shouldn't be your friend. It definitely shouldn't be your parent or your grandparent. It should be someone who can talk about your work ethic and academic skills, and definitely know your seriousness about the things that you've told us you're interested in your statement of purpose. And so advising appointments, our recommendation is that you meet with Natalie about any of your undergraduate requirements, and then meet with Dr. Gilson or myself to talk about the eligibility into the program, and what your goals are with this program. Certainly meet with us sooner rather than later if your plan is to apply this year. But even if you want to apply next year, I recommend that you still meet with us whenever you can. If you're a new transfer student, and you think you want to apply either this year or next year, absolutely meet with us so that we can figure out how to fit your coursework into a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan if need be, so that we can see that you graduate on time. And then your eligibility to apply into the program requires what it says here in the middle. All substantial progress in your major, your GE requirements, and your university requirements. Again, the reason there is that we want to make sure you can graduate with your bachelor's degree. We don't want to think that you graduated, started your graduate level coursework, and have to say you have to go back. And so if you have too many courses left on the undergraduate side while taking GPS, the GPS core, it becomes increasingly difficult for you to graduate on time. So we want to see that you are far along in your political science requirements. And then once again, your major GPA of a 3.4 or higher, which is your upper division coursework, and then your cumulative GPA of a 3.0 or higher. And so what is GPS admissions looking for? Nancy and I will be working closely with GPS admissions on the review of all the 5-year joint degree program applications. And so this is what they're really looking for. Strong GPA. This really just tells us that you can do the work here at GPS. A demonstrated interest in international affairs. In other words, what coursework have you done? What time have you spent abroad? Any internships that might tell us what you're interested in, policy area or relevant work. Again, we know that your undergraduates and transfer students, we know that your undergraduate students and that transfer students typically have a little bit more experience, or a longer work history if they've left school and came back after a while. But those who have entered UCSD as freshmen and you're juniors now, we're really just looking for a coherent idea of what you're interested in and what you're trying to do. So we don't expect that you've spent a year abroad working for a nonprofit or working as an English teacher in Korea. But we understand that we understand that, and we want to just see evidence of what you're interested in. And so definitely pay close attention to the statement of purpose when you're writing it. Spend time on it. We will read through it carefully just to get a grasp of who you are and why you'd be a good fit in this program. And then strong recommendations. Please don't ask someone to give you a recommendation if you're not absolutely certain that they're going to give you a strong recommendation. And so if you're simply just asking one of your professors to give you a recommendation letter, that might not be the best idea. Maybe try and formulate that relationship a little bit better, and see where you can go from there. And so financial aid is a big question that comes up in terms of this program. In your senior year, you are still eligible for all of the same financial aid you get now as an undergraduate. And then once you matriculate into graduate standing, there's also graduate financial aid that you can apply for. It's the same FAFSA, but for graduate standing. And then another thing we like to highlight is that students who do well in their core classes and in their major courses often find it possible to get a TA-ship in your graduate year. We have a lot of 5-year students who are TAs for our core classes in their second year, or they're working with the writing programs on campus for the entire year. We have students working in different departments like political science, which would be very great for you guys, psychology, history, and whatnot. And the advantages of these TA shifts is that these help pay or greatly offset your tuition and fees in your graduate year. So in some cases, students might be also working as a graduate research assistant if you have a particular specialty that attracts some of the faculty here at GPS, and that also will give you a lump of money. This year also, we opened up a new fellowship that is specific for our BA/MI students. So this is something new as well that we would definitely encourage everyone to apply for. And so this is a question of what careers can you get out of getting a master in international affairs? I'm not going to read this list, but this is just the beginning. A lot of the career outcomes really depends on you. I don't think anyone has gone through GPS and would say that you can't get a job doing XYZ. So when you're meeting with your GPS Career Services and you tell them what you're interested in, their team is to help. They're specialized depending on what sector and what type of work you're interested in, and they can help you get into any field that is adjacent to the curriculum and your skill set. So we have students who go into the FBI, the CIA, they work in defense industries. We have some in the energy sector in Asia, management consultants, students who go to the World Bank after graduation. They end up in think tanks, working abroad in nonprofits. So again, it's what do you want to do, and how do you focus your coursework to get where you want to go? So again, like the internship situation, for your career outcome, the limitation is in a sense your own inability to think bigger and thinking about where you ultimately want to go for your career. So just to dive a little bit deeper on our GPS Career Services team, they're an excellent group of people. This is a separate team from the Central Career Services on campus. And this slide tells you a great deal about what they do. They do a lot of outreach events. They have events where they take a small group of students to LA, San Francisco, New York, Washington, DC, for those who are interested in going. They provide a lot of internship funding opportunities, networking events every year that will put you in touch with alumni around the world. And a lot of our students do get jobs via the GPS alumni through these events. So it's a very important network where alumni come for events. They do enjoy coming back. They will help set you up for interviews, even with alumni who are abroad. And so those alumni will help and start working with you early on in the program, as well as our career services advisors. So they are an incredible resource for you all who will be in the 5-year program. You will have access to them for life, even after you have found a job after you graduated and you come back and you're like, this isn't what I want to do anymore. And so they're a great resource to make use of. It's very difficult to get this level of help through the career services on campus because it's harder to reach. They're a little bit more oriented on the STEM side and engineering side of careers. But the GPS Career Services team really makes up for that deficit. And they really match the amount of work that you put in and to help guide you in where you're trying to go in terms of the career side. So lastly, this is where you can find both me and Nancy to make appointments. Nancy has already put our emails in there as well. If you'd like to meet with me, I'm also available through the VAC. If you want to ask a question about BA/MIA, you would have to just go to the International Studies Program Department. You can reach me through there, or just through my email. That's totally fine as well. If you'd like to meet with Nancy or Dr. Gilson, you can email her directly. And if you do, she is a very busy woman, so please send her a few different days and times to schedule an appointment, and then she'll hit you back with what aligns in her calendar. She's been running this program for over 11 years now, but she is always happy to talk to prospective BA/MI students. She's been working with GPS and ISB for a very long time, so she knows the curriculum. She knows many of the students and alumni and where they end up, and she knows the program very well. So I definitely recommend meeting with her if you haven't already. And then to reach Natalie, you can reach her through the Virtual Advising Center as well.